What's good? It's your brother YK the Truth, and welcome to another episode of Silly Things Pretendians Say in order to prove they are the real Indians. Let's play the video.
That his whole concept, what he was going for the stopping from being on Prozac and all the medicine and stuff. I was like, yo, this is a good dude. I'm gonna support that. I haven't seen that in years, bro. Like I haven't seen him do anything. Like, I know trying to build stuff, is difficult, so I'm not gonna touch that. But when we're talking about now, you want to say we American Africans, you know what I mean?
See, they with you until you start telling them that they're from Africa.
We didn't want anybody to tell us anything about Africa, and much less call us an African.
They'll ride with you no matter what until you start saying, look, we are not from America. That's how these abos do. They're not with you when you say you're an African. They hate Africa because it's self-hatred.
He's smart enough to understand what's going on, and he's been attacking the community of people, like, calling people pretendians and things of that nature, whatever.
Because you are. You guys are pretendians. You don't have the records to prove you're from America. You don't have the genealogy. You don't have the history. You don't have any laws to validate your claim. So you're a pretendian. Until you actually put forth the information, we got to call you as such. You're a pretendian.
Well, you're not an African. You know what I mean? Then you're still pushing Johnson because...
But we can prove we're from Africa. We have the genealogy to prove that we're from Africa. But you guys are not showing the Indians. You guys are not showing the Aboriginals. AP, you told the people that you couldn't find no Indian or no Aboriginal in your genealogy. Is that true, brother?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You guys are showing Negroes and blacks and colored. And when you look at the etymology of that word, it takes you back to Africa. Now he's going to claim that Johnson is an English name. Johnson and Jackson is English. This is what pretendians do.
That's your people. That's from here. You know what I'm saying? And so addressing that as well, we talk about slave names, right? I'm a Johnson.
Right.
So I remember, I'm a teenager, and
so he's a Johnson. We're going to see if Johnson is an Aboriginal name. But let's hear what the brother talking about.
And I'm getting this information, 5% stuff and all that, right? You know what I mean? And we're talking about, you want to change your name to Akbar and, you know what I'm saying? Muslim names, right? One slave name to another, right? But not really, you're not trading a slave name, you're trading your family's name.
Not true. You are trading the slave name because the name itself is European. It's not an Indian name. So why call yourself something that your ancestors never was? So it made sense to get rid of that slave name. It made sense because when the Moors conquered Spain, right? And then when Spain came back and kicked the Moors out, what was the first thing they started doing? They started burning those Moorish books. Started burning the information so they can get back to their own identity. You get what I'm saying? And this is a reason a lot of us want to be Indian, want to be Aboriginal, because we lost that knowledge of self. We lost that. You would get punished for being an African.
I will never again if another God. I will never
I will not associate those who worship another god.
I'll associate with those who worship
A heathen god. An African god. Never.
For speaking that African gibberish. You're not an African. You a child of Christ. Remember? Remember? Yeah. But now you guys can't wake up because you still think you're an Indian.
These are not slave names. These are not given to us by Europeans. These names, Johnson, Jackson, Washington, are our names. These are American names.
Stop it. Get some help.
And so you can go through.
Now, this is why this video is called Silly Things Pretendians Say. Jackson is a European name. Johnson is a European name. So here's the Johnson family history. English and Scottish. Patronymic from the Middle English and Older Scots. Personal name, Johann, John, plus son. It was often interchanged with Jensen and Jansen. In North America, this surname has absorbed cognates from other languages. Norwegian, Danish, North German, Johnson, Johansson, Johannesson, Jansen, Johnson, Swedish, Johnson, Slovenia. It is the second most frequent surname in the United States. It is also the second most common surname among Native Americans and a very surname among African Americans due to the history. So after the Civil War, when the passage of the 13th Amendment freed 4 million slaves, most had been barred by their owners from having last names. Many picked the surnames of the former presidents Jefferson and Jackson. The history of slavery, Americanized, right? History was brought independently to North America by many different bearers from the 17th and 18th centuries onward. Andrew Johnson, 17th president of the U.S., was born in Raleigh, North Carolina, the younger son of Jacob Johnson and Mary or Polly McDonald. Little was known of his ancestors. So this stuff comes from English. When you have names like Johnson, there's presidents. Names like Washington. There's a president called George Washington. So it makes sense why most slaves were given that name, Johnson and Washington.
Pretty much every name that we carry are American names. They didn't bring them here from Europe. They tricked us.
God, please, no! No!
So they took our names. They didn't.
This is why I don't like channels like 3 Milli and other channels like Black Magic, because you can get up there and say anything. You don't have to come with a presentation. You don't have to come with the evidence. You can just get up there and say silly shit and say things like slavery never happened and say things like Johnson is an American Indian name. And the host is just going to sit there and say, yeah. Meanwhile, if you look on his wall, you have two people, Martin and Malcolm. I'm talking about that's directly behind Chief Holiday, not the sister that's right there. You have two people behind Chief Holiday that both said that we came from Africa. Martin Luther King said we came from Africa.
At the same time, America was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that there was a willingness to give the white peasants from Europe an economic base. And yet it refused to give its black peasants from Africa, who came here involuntarily in chains and had worked free for 244 years.
Malcolm X said we came from Africa.
African blood, African origin, African culture, African ties. And you'd be surprised. We discovered that deep within the subconscious of the black man in this country, he's still more African than he is American.
And said that you would rather be called American than an African. But yet this brother is allowed to get on his platform and spread this deadly information. Like, who sent you people? Who sent you? This is why I agree with Not a Coincidence that we need to sign a petition so these people can stop being allowed to get on YouTube and say these things, because they wouldn't be able to say it against another group of people. See, it's so bad, we hesitate to say the J word. We hesitate to say the H word. But they don't hesitate to say the slave trade never happened. You see that? You see how safe it is for me to say that? That right there is a dead giveaway to let us know that this Aboriginal shit is BS.
And we didn't take their names. Mm-hmm. And so when that, when you talk about the concept of being the son of John, that's all it is.
Break
you know
the
what I'm
name
saying?
down.
Yeah, I'm
the son of John, but John is not an American name. You guys get on here and you make stuff up.
Johnson. So when my grandfather created the name, he's the son of John. So my great grandfather.
But your great grandfather name is not John. His original Indian name is not John. Because you guys love saying that the letter J didn't come out until the 1600s. Well, who brought the letter? Because it wasn't an Indian name. It wasn't. Silly things Pretendians say.
Father's name is John. He's the son of John. So now we all Johnsons based off of that.
Oh, yeah. I remember wearing one of these. Yeah, that's right. I can make it rain.
But of course, my grandfather has a certain.
But that's what the Europeans did. That's what the Europeans did. And that's how you got that name. Now, this is from a slave narrative by Hannah Davidson, right? And this is what she said. She said, my father and mother were Isaac and Nancy Merriweather, she stated. All the slaves went under the name of my master and Mrs. Emmett and Susan Merriweather. So, this proves that the slaves were given the names of their slave masters. So it's not an American Indian name. Let's keep going.
Name as well. See what I'm saying? But he's the son of him. That's how Jackson.
Show me that. Show the documentation. Show the archaeology. Show this stuff. Why you didn't say, hold on, 3 milli? Let me source this up. No, because you making it up. These people are trying to rewrite history. Dan Calloway, it was told in reverse. Top Cats, Columbus never existed. You name it. These people are trying to rewrite our African ancestors' history. They are trying to delete our history. They are trying to do what Donald Trump and them is doing. So who are the true agents if they're on the same agenda as the government? Because guess what? The government already gave out land to natives, the Indians, and freedmen who were owned by those Indians. But what did they give us reparations for as Africans? And now we're trying to get our reparations, and now they use you guys to take us away from the reparations. Because I ain't no African. The slavery ain't never happened. So why should they pay people for something that never happened? Let's get a group of people to say they're Indian, so we won't have to pay them reparations. Do you get where I'm going? This thing is deadly, man. These people have an agenda. Either it's that or they're just plain ignorant. And I think it's a mixture of both.
These people owning us, and they don't carry these surnames. And nobody ever talk about that though, right? That they don't carry Jackson and Johnson and Washington, right? They say that Washington, 92% of the people that carry the name Washington, surname Washington, are Aboriginal.
Oh my God! Wow!
It's the #1 name for Negroes, which means Washitaw.
So this is the AI overview. No, the name Washington does not come from Washitaw. The name Washington has a long history in England with roots in places like Washington. It also became a widely used surname among free slaves in the United States. Let me repeat that. It became a widely used surname among free slaves in the United States. The Washitaw Nation is a relatively recent black nationalist group that claims to be indigenous to North America and claims land ownership. The group is led by Vertice Tierra Washitaw, Turner, Gaston L. Bay. A lot of this Indian stuff comes from Moorish ideology. Let's be real. There wouldn't be any of these people claiming this shit without Moorish ideology. And even according to Washitaw, we come from Africa. You don't believe me? Here it goes. So this is from Return of the Ancient Ones. It said, we of African descent had discovered this Afro-American. Both Vespucci and Columbus were the Johnny-come-latelys. We were Moorish. It's the Africa called Moorish black. So even the Washitaw believe that we descend from Africa.
That's nothing. That's where it comes from.
No, it does not. Washington does not come from Washitaw. You're a damn liar. And just because somebody has more of the name doesn't mean it originated from those people. Because there's a historical reason to why more black people have the name Washington. There's a more historical reason. You got George Washington, the first president. So it's going to be more slaves called Washington. It's going to be more slaves called Washington. It doesn't mean that it's an Aboriginal name. It doesn't mean that it's an Indian name. And it damn sure don't come from Washitaw.
Washitaw. That's nothing. That's where it comes from.